Today we will be replacing front shock absorbers on a FIAT Spider 2000 or 124 Spider, and this is a Koni shock, but it doesn't matter what brand we use, the procedure is the same. We have our shock here, all the hardware, and we'll check to make sure everything is there. Here's the hardware that goes on top of the shock. We got 2 large washers, 2 nuts, 2 bushings, 1 sleeve, and the Koni one comes with a little hat that goes on top of the nuts. That's usually not included with other shocks, and then a little diagram on how everything is installed. And what I like to do is, before I even install the shock, I put on the washer and then the sleeve with one of the rubber bushings, and that way I'm sure that this is not gonna be forgotten when I insert the shock from the bottom. First order of business is to undo the lower bolt that holds the shock absorber, and it's a 70mm bolt that has a 70mm nut. So we'll just use a ratchet and a wrench. And before the nut is all the way off, I like to tap this. This will make it, getting it out easier once the nut is off, and we don't have to hit the threads. Okay. Nut and washer are off. Now we need to undo the upper shock bolt, and accessibility is different on different cars. This car has a header, so accessibility is gonna be a little bit different. So we see there's the engine, and I'm going to turn. So there's a hole in the inner fender. That's where the nut is for the shock, for the upper shock. And this one looks like it's a nylock, which is going to make taking it off a little bit more difficult. What would really help in this scenario is a gear wrench, because it can be moved just a little bit and kind of works like a ratchet. And the shaft has a flat on the end, so we can either put a small wrench or vice grips on that to keep the shaft from turning while we are turning the nut. Once the top nut is removed, we can extract the shock from the bottom. Before we insert the new shock, we need to make sure it is fully extended. And we need to feel as the stud goes into the hole, because we need to make sure that it goes through, and instead of getting compressed, because then it will be difficult to fish it through the hole. And I'm going to put this bolt through, just not tighten it yet. But just put it through to make sure the shock doesn't fall out. Since the shock is not poking through quite all the way, I'm going to try and extend it from this side by pushing up with a screwdriver on the upper part of the shock. And it doesn't really want to go, so I'm guessing it's fully extended. So what you'll have to do is jack up on the suspension some, so the whole shock gets raised a little bit. Okay, so the top of the shock absorber is poking through all the way. We can see part of the sleeve. So now we can put the rubber bushing the washer and the nut on. Here's the rubber bushing. The shock went down a bit as I put it on. I'm going to try and pull it back up. There we go. Now the washer and the first nut. This shock has 2 nuts. I'm going to go as far as I can by hand, and then we'll use the gear wrench. And the second nut. And now that both nuts are on and tightened against each other, we can put the cap on. To make inserting the bottom bolt easier, I ended up jacking up the suspension a little bit so the weight is not on this bolt, and actually it goes through very easily. So now I just have to put the nut on and tighten it. Let's make sure the threads are in good condition, and if everything is good, we can put on the washer and then the nut. And then tighten everything.